This growing season, join me as I meet and talk with expert growers, agronomists, researchers, and breeders looking for ways to get more performance from each and every soybean to help you chase down the next bushel. In this bonus content episode of The Next Bushel, I thought it'd be fun to get some different perspectives on technology. So this morning, we're heading over to Wheeler's Cafe in Seton, Illinois to grab some coffee, talk some tech, and have a good time. Looks like I'm the first one here. Yeah, as usual. Oh, you guys are already here. All right, I'm the late one apparently.
It's about time you show up.
I know, I thought I beat you all here, but apparently you're all waiting on me, so.
Absolutely.
Traffic jam.
Got stuck behind a combine again, you know. Well, we've all been there, right?
Absolutely.
I wanted to stop in here and have a conversation about technology. And I feel that we all probably have a little different perspective from the technology side. So where have you all seen technology come from over the last, let's say, decade?
You know, I think a lot of technology has changed over the last decade as far as planning populations to, you know, the data we're gathering from climate or off the combine, you know, writing prescriptions. That's definitely changed over the last 10 years.
You know, Marie, I know you work with a lot of, you know, different seed dealers, just like Jason. How have you seen that impact the business from their perspective?
If, you know, a customer has the option to share what they choose to share with their dealer, and a dealer, if they want to be proactive and look at a field, it's easier to go out and get those extra touch points. When there's that trust there, it adds a nice little bridge for a dealer to add an extra service without actually having to pick up a phone call or send a text message and bug somebody. I think it really just shows that as a dealer, you care about their operation. I'm actually trying to help you manage your crop to help you get the best end result versus just, hey, here's your seed, go plant it, call me at harvest, sort of a thing.
And Tanner, from your perspective, how have you seen technology really transition all the different pieces of equipment that we're tracking at this point?
You go from 5 years ago when you had to be one equipment brand with the same equipment implement on it, to now you can have any color, any manufacturer, any OEM manufacturer, and we have the ability to stream that data live. So within 5 to 6 years, we've gone from new technology only you could run on to now you can literally run as long as you have a battery.
Over the course of your career, how have you seen how farmers put in plots, take out plots, and even work with the data? How has that changed over your career?
So a goal of mine is for all of my plots to be in Climate FieldView. Then you can overlay your soil maps, import that, and you can say, okay, you know, maybe 64-64, this was the average, but there was a huge difference between here and here. And, you know, using things like field region reports, you can start to put a few pieces together. Where does this hybrid perform better? What affected it, maybe negatively or positively? Having all of my plots in climate is especially great for the larger ones where you have lots of variance, but even just for the little small strip trials, it's good, easy to send.
How big of a territory would you cover?
So basically Burlington to almost Peoria, and then Woodhull to actually get into Fulton County. My team makes fun of me because they think my soybean forecast makes no sense because I go from a 2.7 to a 3.9.
I would imagine FieldView helps you see some of the variance as these plots are getting taken off then as well. I mean, just across that size of a region?
Yep, it's a quick way to evaluate what performance level different products were at where, and I really think, for me, there is a difference between west of Monmouth and when you start getting into Peoria County. As you start getting closer to the Illinois River, there are differences. It's a good way to help sort some of that out.
At Chaffer Farms, we understand that because we got fields on top of the bluff and below the bluff, and that's just like a stone's throw away, and it's completely different. Well, speaking of plots too, Jason, how have you seen even just the willingness maybe to put plots in or to try different things with the integration of technology?
I actually took a plot out yesterday, and I think we needed more information on it. And he's a great customer, and he loves to see, hey, what'd you say that did? And so, I mean, he breaks it down that way, and he's like, man, I like this technology stuff.
And I would imagine that helps you with your business too. I mean, you cover an area that has two drastic differences on, maybe how that variety performs on sand versus up on top in the black dirt. So,
Yep, exactly.
How have you seen your customers or folks that you work with transition from, probably having a flip phone back in the day to doing all of this stuff and having all of this data literally in their pocket?
I still have flip phone users.
Yeah, I have a couple. But I think it's actually helped a bunch because, some of those guys, they may think, boy, this number was terrible last year.
Yep.
And then he pulls out his iPad, boy, that was your best field. And then when we're making recommendations for the following year, he's like, yeah, you're right. We probably should get more of that.
As a seed dealer, as a DSM, you can catch a lot of shade if a hybrid that you maybe built up to be something ends up being a possible disappointment. Having it on your phone, having climate available is a pretty good and quick way to go back, helping people refresh that weather can affect these things and just kind of keeping a little bit of a level set on hybrids rather than just every time you love one, planting too much of it, or every time you hate one, kicking it to the road.
How about you, Tanner? Have you seen a large shift, into maybe utilizing a phone over an iPad?
I would say there's a definitely bigger shift to an iPhone. It's on your hip, it's on your pocket. You don't need a big iPad on you, but that iPad is still the king in the cab.
Oh.
I mean, that is still capturing the data live. I would call it like a mini LCD TV screen.
In previous episodes, we've talked about the traits with weed control. We've talked about pest and disease with some fungicide applications. And even in talking with Johnny O out in Nebraska with cover crops, how do you see some of the technology helping farmers make those kind of decisions?
I think this year fungicide has been huge. And so obviously the yield data, but with fungicide, you can pretty well look at your field health imagery too from early August and pretty well tell what you're gonna find when you get into the combine. And I think that that's something that all dealers and all growers should look into. Like, let's say getting that yield data into climate isn't an option. I still think it's valuable helping evaluate, did this make sense, and seeing the payback without actually having the yield maps in climate. I think that's huge.
What about taking some of that data and actually turning it into actionable insights? How has that changed, or what are farmers utilizing this data for?
I think a lot of the data that they're gathering is, hey, how do we progressively make ourselves better? I mean, because if you look at yields 10 years ago, we're doing way better, where we've got way more stress.
Yeah, I think we're getting better at documentation, I think is the best thing. Because if you don't document it, you never know later what you're doing. So whether it's tillage in the spring or it's fall tillage, how much anhydrous did I put on? Did I put anything in my post-emergence? Was there any extra nutrient or micronutrient or more nitrogen or less nitrogen? You collect it, you can come back and analyze it. It doesn't have to be that day, but when the combine runs over that acre, it's right there live in the cab and you know exactly what's going on.
How about we all make our bold prediction on where we think that that technology is going to go in the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
My prediction in 10 years, I think we'll be sitting here watching that iPad, not watching the data, but driving that machine. So
I'm a little bit of an old soul, so no offense, but I hope that doesn't happen because I like spending time in the combine, and we need something to do. I think there'll be the next step of technology will really be in cover crops and carbon and how we're managing an acre and keeping track of nitty gritty things to get extra bushels.
I had some guys worried about planting what they were planting. They're like, ooh, we better get some shorter season. Now they wish they would have had the fuller season stuff.
Yep.
So I just think maybe if we predict the weather a little better, we'd have a better idea what to plant. Because Mother Nature seems to always throw a wrench in our planning.
I like that we all three had different answers.
You had better weather, you had autonomy, and you have agronomics, right? I mean, those all go kind of hand in hand. And I'll have to throw one in there myself, just because I do get excited to see where drone technology takes us, and whether that's from scouting or spraying or weed detection or things of that nature. I think there's some really exciting things that'll come over the horizon on drone technologies. So the last thing, because then we all got to go probably actually like, do some work today, right? If you had to give advice to a farmer, maybe a dealer or a customer or anybody else to get them to adopt a new piece of technology that they may not be comfortable with.
I will go with that. It is track everything you do. Every pass across the field, and I try to instill this in my dad. If you don't document it, we're never gonna know.
All right.
Find technologies that can actually bring value to your farm, and don't be scared off, shy it away from the price tag. Just kind of do the math, think through it, talk to people who've used it.
You mentioned that, Marie, and I'd have to just say the first thing that popped in my head was row shutoffs, right? Of something that had a hefty cost to it when it first came out, but probably had one of the quickest ROIs that was out there, right? So,
huge.
Jason, we're gonna end with you.
I would probably say just stay open-minded. I mean, don't just be the person that, this will never work. Just stay open-minded and just try it on your fields or just do a little bit at a time.
Yep.
And I can sometimes get to be negative myself, and I'm like, boy, they're just trying to make me do this. And then you try it, and then you're like, that ain't a bad idea. It works.
All right, well, again, I just want to say thank you all for stopping by and having this nice little chat. So it's been great, but I figure we probably all ought to get back to work now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, thanks again. So, oh yeah, we need...
Hey, see you, Clint.
Thanks, Clint.
Oh, yeah. Huh. Last one gets a check, eh?